The old church stood firm against the relentless march of time. Its tall, weathered stone walls whispered tales of centuries past, each crack and crevice holding a piece of the history. Inside, beneath the vaulted ceiling, rows upon rows of black chairs were neatly arranged, silently anticipating the arrival of the faithful. Today was no ordinary day. It was a day of penance, a day when the community would gather to confront their collective sorrow, confess their individual sins, and seek solace in the house of the Lord. As the morning mist cleared, the townspeople began to arrive, their faces etched with lines of worry and despair. They came from all walks of life, their ages and appearances differing, yet united by the burden they carried, the darkness that had fallen over their town. This shadow had been cast by a series of unfortunate events, a string of tragedies that had befallen the community, leaving them shaken and desperate for guidance. Crops had failed, businesses had crumbled, and families had been torn apart. Hope, once their guiding star, had flickered and dimmed, threatening to be extinguished entirely. They filed into the church, their steps echoing the solemnity of the occasion. Each person carried their own cross, their own unique blend of guilt and anguish. Some blamed themselves for the town's misfortunes, believing their actions or inactions had brought this suffering upon them. Others wrestled with doubts, questioning God's love and mercy in the face of their torment. In the dimly lit sanctuary, they took their seats, the silence broken only by the soft rustle of robes and the occasional cough. The air was thick with anticipation and a sense of shared misery. Then, as if on cue, the large wooden doors at the front of the church slowly creaked open, revealing the altar bathed in the soft glow of candlelight. A single figure stood there, his back to the congregation, his shoulders stooped under an unseen weight. It was Father Michael, the town's priest, a man who had dedicated his life to serving the Lord and his people. For him, this was more than just a day of penance. It was a day of mourning, a day when he, too, grappled with the failings of his flock and the limitations of his own faith. He turned slowly, his face etched with lines of concern and fatigue, and began to speak. His voice, usually so comforting, now trembled with emotion. He spoke of the trials their town had faced, the pain they had endured, and the uncertainty that clouded their future. His words were a balm, soothing their raw nerves and reminding them that they were not alone in their suffering. But as the service wore on, a palpable tension filled the church. The people shifted in their seats, their gazes fixed on the priest. Time seemed to stretch, each second laden with unspoken fears and regrets. Father Michael's voice cracked. He, too, felt the weight of their collective despair pressing down on him, threatening to crush him. Then, as if emerging from a dream, someone began to chant softly, "Have mercy on us, O Lord." The voice was weak, hesitant, yet it carried a sincerity that resonated with the others. Slowly, ever so slowly, the murmurs grew, gaining strength and clarity. "Have mercy on us, O Lord," they chanted, their voices weaving together in a tapestry of longing and devotion. This ritual was not a mere formality for them. It was an outpouring of their souls, a desperate plea for solace and understanding. Yet even as they poured their hearts out, a part of them recoiled, holding back their deepest fears and regrets. There were sins they had committed, mistakes they had made, and moments they wished they could take back. But pride, shame, and the fear of judgment often held them back from confessing their transgressions fully. Yet in the heart of the church, something stirred, an energy that transcended their doubts and fears. The chanting grew louder, more insistent, as if echoing the very essence of their tormented souls. Their pleas ascended, reaching out to the heavens like smoke from a funeral pyre. In the midst of this turmoil, the towering crucifix above the altar suddenly burst into a brilliant light. The townspeople gasped, their eyes drawn to the spectacle before them. As the light intensified, a figure began to materialize. Step by step, his form becoming clearer with every passing moment. It was Jesus. His eyes filled with warmth and understanding, his hands outstretched in blessing. A hush fell over the church, broken only by the fading echoes of their chants. All eyes were on the radiant figure before them. He descended from the cross, his feet touching the altar, and turned towards his people. His gaze, filled with love and compassion, swept over the congregation, seeming to penetrate their facades, to see the depths of their despair. He spoke, his voice resonating with power and kindness. His words were balm to their wounded spirits, soothing their raw emotions and whispering promises of solace. He spoke of love, of forgiveness, and of hope, reminding them that even in the darkest of times, light endures. His message was one of healing, urging them to confront their pain, to acknowledge their mistakes, and to seek forgiveness, both from themselves and from God. He taught them that true strength lay not in denying their weaknesses, but in confronting them with honesty and humility. As he spoke, the townspeople were transformed. Their shoulders, which had been bent under the weight of their burdens, straightened. Their eyes, which had been clouded with despair, regained their luster. With each word, their hearts, which had been hardened by their struggles, softened, allowing the light of his teachings to seep in. The church, which had been a place of sorrow, became a sanctuary of hope. The shadows that had clung to the faithful were dispelled by his presence, replaced by the warmth of his love. It was as if the very walls of the church were shedding their somber cloak, donning instead the vibrant colors of renewal and promise. One by one, they stepped forward, drawn by an invisible force. Their steps, once heavy with shame, now became lighter, surer. Before Jesus, they laid bare their souls, sharing their fears, their regrets, and their unwavering devotion. They confessed their sins, not as a means of punishment, but as a release, a shedding of the heavy burden they had carried for so long. And as they spoke, a miracle occurred. Their sorrow, far from increasing, began to dissipate, melting away like frost under the rising sun. In its place bloomed a fragile hope, a tiny seedling reaching for the light of his forgiveness. He embraced them, each and every one, his touch driving away the coldness that had settled in their bones. He saw not their flaws, but their strength. He saw not their mistakes, but their potential.